Today on Isolation Nation, Tessa Virtue. She is smart, she's interesting, she's compassionate. Perfect guest for today. Plus, she's the reigning queen of Canadian sport. 3-time gold medalist. Tessa Virtue today in a way you've never seen her before. Without Scott and without hearing this.
Are you a couple?
Plus, our life-saving hairstylist is back.
I'm Cindy DUPLANTIS, and if all else fails, you're really struggling with your hair, how about a nice chapeau?
And of course, the hair goat returns, sometimes uninvited. If he doesn't like your hair, you hear this. Goat knows hair for sure. Plus, Chris Wyllie.
I'm Chris Wyllie. I'm 28 years old. I'm from Markham, Ontario, and I'm a brain transformation specialist.
Chris, sorry, the goat has spoken. Plus, of course, serenading Sean Cullen.
Tessa Virtue, this song goes out to you from me.
So it's time for Tessa Virtue. Wait a second here. Hair Goat wants to comment. Hey, what can I say, Tessa? The hair goat, he's got his own opinion, can't be swayed by gold medals or anything else. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
You know what? Just super. It's this whole experience I was telling you before has been amazing for me. To try to combine having fun with mental health chat is something that I kind of always dreamed of doing. So now I get the chance, and I get the chance to connect with friends from the past, and you would be one of those. So you're doing well. You're in Vancouver. Are the people that you care about most in the world, are they healthy at this point?
Yeah, everyone in my sphere seems to be holding up okay. I mean, like everyone else, it's a strange and scary time that can be really isolating for a lot of people. So we're doing our best to stay connected, and everyone is healthy. And you're right, that's number one priority. How about you? How are things in your world, Michael?
You know what? We're all good. I was telling you before that my dad was in the hospital for a couple of days, not for COVID, but he wasn't that sick when he went in. But we're all going, oh my God, you know, he's 89 years old. He's going into a hospital where all of this virus exists. He's going in healthy, but he's, who knows? But he's fine. He's good. So thank you for asking. So let's talk about your mental health at this point. There's a way to refer to it. It's kind of like this pandemic of anxiety that people are having because of this isolation, forced isolation, and because of the economy, and because of the fears, when is it going to end? How are you doing with that?
I think, I oscillate, because in some moments I try and reframe it and be positive and find purpose and fulfillment, but in other ways it's just overwhelmingly daunting. And when all of the news cycle, whether that's on TV or Twitter, it's just so negative, and it's terrifying, and there are so many unknowns, so much uncertainty, I think that can be crippling. So it's a roller coaster, and I know that most other people could relate. And I think if there was an end date, we could all sort of wrap our heads around that and have something to work towards. But it's not being able to plan is also really difficult.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the unknown is always scary in
Right.
almost any context. And sometimes the unknown is exciting. I don't think anyone's finding this particularly exciting. But you, am I right that you studied psychology in school?
Right. Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to sit back, and you can use all of the psychology that you learned in school. Now, I took psychology too. Didn't go that well. And I'm pretty aware of the fact that doesn't really qualify you for much. But having said that, what advice would you give to people based on your own life? Not so much studying in school, but how you've learned to cope through this.
Well, I personally am such a task-oriented person, and I get validation and satisfaction when I feel like I'm accomplishing something. So I try and set a goal or an intention each day. And I've had to sort of reconcile the fact that it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be monumental. If it's cleaning the kitchen or organizing a closet or writing someone a letter, connecting with someone who might need that, that has really helped because it gives purpose. And I think, we all need that. And also I'm trying to curate the way that I consume news and consume the media. So, we talked about all that negativity, and there is also so much kindness and so many good things happening. Friends at home are doing so much to help their neighbors and, for our elders. And so
One sec, Tessa. Get off my property. Sorry. Neighbors. Oh my God. They think that there's no rules anymore. Sorry.
I just think there's a way of trying to find the light. And, and also shows like this, what you're giving to people, it's making everyone feel understood and valued and maybe not so alone.
That word you just used, feeling understood, like I did, it's not like I planted that in your head, or it's not like we talked about it, but that word is so huge for people with more serious mental illness than situational mental illness, which can be really frightening at this point, but not the same as having, long-term depression, for instance, and the ability to make someone feel like, oh my gosh, someone understands what's going on in my head is huge. I want to ask you, I'm going to take a brief time out for Sean Cullen because he's done a song just for you. But I want to ask you what your experience is with mental health or mental illness, and whether it's you or someone that you've cared about. So you'll still be on. So we'll see your reactions to Sean Cullen, who has done this ballad for you, Tessa Virtue.
Oh, Tessa Virtue, I don't want to hurt you. You're such a great skater. Would you meet me later? I know we're under quarantine in a time with a virus obscene, but I think we could have been the greatest duo ever. Let's go get a lawyer, get rid of Scott Moyer. I could be your skating pal, and we could be winners. I could lift you over my head for a short period of time, and then we could skate around. Oh, it would be fine. I look bad in tights, and you have your rights.
Okay, the second half of that, the exciting conclusion of Sean Cullen coming up at the end of the show. I mean, people got to stay tuned to find out how that story ends.
The suspense.
Yeah.
I particularly enjoyed how he clarified that he could lift me over his head for a short period of time.
For a short period of time. Sean Cullen is, he does a song for us every day. He's a very accomplished guy. He's written 3 books. He's written all kinds of awards, Gemini Awards and Canadian Screen Awards. Great on stand-up, but like everybody else, he's looking for a way to spend his time, but also a way to make an impact on people. So now that we're feeling relaxed and valued, let me ask you the question that I asked you in advance, if it was okay, and that is, have you been touched by mental illness, either personally or through somebody that you care about?
I haven't personally, Michael, but of course, I think we all have someone in our lives who has been touched by mental illness, and I've seen up close and personal friends who have battled anxiety, depression, eating disorders, and it's tough. I think, on that continuum of emotions, that I've had lows. Certainly, I've had times of feeling really alone, and I can only imagine what that is like magnified. I try and wrap my head around what that feels like and what kind of support people need. And it's important to have conversations just like this, because the fear of reaching out because of so many, that stigma that exists around mental health is really pervasive. But we need to be able to be open and share our vulnerabilities and realize that I think everyone faces self-doubt, faces, a lot of stress and anxiety. It's something that we all have to sort of strategize to cope with.
People, when they hear that you said that sometimes you felt really alone, would go, well, how does, one of the most famous people in the world of sport, and you truly are, like what you do is worldwide, right? It's not like figure skating is strictly in Canada. There's countries where it's even bigger than it is in Canada. So how could someone with that kind of success, and I know that this is, I don't believe this to be true, but this is how people think, how would you feel alone?
Well, I never felt like I fit in really anywhere, but especially not in the skating world. And I'm not sure if that's because I didn't buy into that toxic environment, or whether, my distancing myself prevented others from welcoming me in. And it's easy for me to look back and understand the times that I might have been bullied, that it was because it was threatening or we had success early on or any of those things. But I was really ostracized. And then I would go home to London, Ontario, and I wouldn't have friends there because I had moved away. And, it's just gearing up to head into the rink, knowing that, I was on my own was a struggle. But everyone faces things like that in moments in their life. And, I'm so lucky that I had people around me, like my mom, who I could talk to and rely on for support.
Yeah, you say everybody faces things like that. The thing about mental illness is the perception that nobody else has it. Nobody else is struggling. Nobody else is lonely. Nobody else feels isolated. Nobody else feels like, oh my God, I can't get out of bed in the morning. The perception is that your neighbor is always perfect in their house. And that obviously is not the case, but the value in speaking about your own struggles, whether it be like in my case, like real mental illness, like depression, or in your case, circumstances in life, which left you feeling in a way that others would never believe that you were feeling. It's just so important. I mean, I just listening to you there, it was like, wow, oh my gosh, how helpful is that to someone who feels like they don't fit in?
Yeah, and there's this idea now, especially with social media, that how people present themselves is, everything you see and it's authentic, and there's so much behind that. It's so layered and nuanced for people, and we're all just looking at life through this unique lens of our own experiences and our histories. And I think we do have to break down those walls and just admit and open up about, those fears that we faced. And as you say, that kind of shatter that idea that people have of you. And I think it's a responsibility, when you're in the public eye as well.
Okay, so we decided because you were going to be on the show that we would try to be different than all the other shows. So last night, after I messaged you, I started going through and looking at YouTube links, and oh my God, the number of Scott and Tessa shows that you were on where you had to play like little games and you had to hold up cards was crazy. So our rules for you start with this one rule. First, no cute intros.
Okay.
We're just waiting to roll it. You want to roll that, Phil? Let's roll that. Yep. Yeah, no problem. You just roll that, Phil, anytime.
I'm Tessa Virtue.
I'm Scott Moyer.
Hi, I'm Tessa Virtue.
And I'm Scott Moyer.
Hi, I'm Tessa Virtue.
And I'm Scott Moyer.
Then, no newlywed game, no how well do you know each other, no internet questions, no making each other laugh, no jam or not jam, don't know what that is, no making shapes, no teaching fitness, no Tessa and Scott read tweets, no. And finally, thank God, no more of this.
Are you a couple?
That was like, oh my God. The thing is that you would never give on or give off the signal? God, don't ask me that question, because I mean, let's face it. I'm sure it was, like the idea that maybe you guys were together. I'm sure it worked out really well for you, because that question increased intrigue around you and focus on you. But God, you never seemed like you were tired of doing all these like really silly things.
I think, I learned that that's a part of people wanting to see personality. And I think sometimes with games like that comes out when you're doing shows. But it's funny to look back on that. And I mean, I appreciate it. Scott and I were always really aware of the fact that the stories we were portraying on the ice would engage people in a unique way. But also we did share something really special and really unique. And far be it from me to sit next to him on a couch and bring him down, or, like vice versa, by saying, no, we're not together because this and this and this. I think we just always wanted to highlight the things that we adored about one
Oh,
another.
that's beautiful, man.
Thanks.
That actually is, I never thought of it. I never thought of the concept that, maybe it would be disrespectful to the person sitting beside you to go, no, we're not together. I'm assuming you wouldn't have done it like that. All right, I want to introduce you to Chris Wyllie. Chris Wyllie, meet Tessa Virtue.
Hey, Tessa.
Hi, Chris.
Now it's my turn to sing you my song for you, Tessa.
Oh, I can't wait.
I'm just kidding.
No. Okay. So Chris, you are, you're a mental health expert, a brain expert. You are somebody that has dealt with patients who have real mental illness. You've also dealt with people that are looking to increase their performance at something. You also were just on Big Brother, right? And that was the one that got postponed, right? Because of COVID-19.
Yeah, it's from one quarantine and lockdown to another, from being locked up in this Big Brother house and being completely removed from society to now being in society, but actually being removed from society. So it's been a long month. So I'm actually pretty good at quarantine by now. So I can teach a cool thing. Yeah. And
go ahead.
Actually, and everything on the mental health side is, I've actually experienced a lot of these, issues myself, from anxiety, panic attacks, addictions, and that's kind of been the motivator and inspiration for me to learning and pursuing this career path, because it wasn't always what I had in my sights.
So I'm guessing that some of that or all of that is in the past. Maybe not your vulnerability to it, but I'm assuming that you doing the job that you do and how you've been educated, that you have been able to deal with those really tough things in your life and move past them. You there, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's almost incredible how, myself and people watching this as well, and yourself, too, Michael, and I'm sure you, Tessa, as you have these periods of rapid growth where you look back and it almost seems like these things were happening to a different person. And for me, I'm just like a triple type A determined guy. So I was just dead set. I had a brain in big trouble with anxiety, panic attacks, and I was just determined to find how to actually take control of this, mental beast. And trust me, it's not common knowledge. We're not really educated. Like, I have a degree in psychology, and Tess has one too, but we're never really served an instruction manual. Hey, this is how your brain works. This is how thinking works. Hey, if you have anxiety, this is what you do to get rid of those thoughts, to make it so you feel better. So for me, I was really like dead set on finding a technology and skills to help figure out how the mind works, and then more importantly, get our minds to do what we really want.
Okay. Tess, why don't you think about something you'd like to ask Wyllie? I think I know you well enough to use your last name. And I'm going to throw it there by saying, okay, COVID-19, lot of people suffering from COVID-related anxiety, where they're catastrophizing everything. So the thought is, and this is like the thought pattern, oh my gosh, I just turned on my TV. Oh my gosh, the number of cases, the number of deaths. Oh my God, people in my age group are dying. Oh my God, if I go outside and walk my dog, someone's going to touch my dog, and then I'm going to touch my dog, and I'm going to get COVID-19 and I'm going to die. Kind of, it all unravels.
That's a perfect way to make yourself anxious, Michael.
Yeah, yeah. So what do you say to people who are replaying that over and over in their head?
Yeah, I mean, like basically anxiety is you have to think certain thoughts to basically scare the shit out of yourself and make yourself feel bad. Now, the thing is most people, we're not consciously aware of this. We're not aware of the mental images that we're doing, how we're talking to ourselves. And you just did a great demonstration of that. When you start getting your thoughts racing in your mind and it's going faster than you talk normally, what it does is it creates mental stress. And anxiety is a classic case of like bad planning, where you begin to worry and imagine the worst case outcomes having. It's the exact opposite of what a superstar athlete like Tessa Virtue does. You know, the best athletes are really good at running perfection in their mind, whereas anxiety is that mental ability just on the flip side, where now you're worrying, imagining the absolute worst things happen. You see someone else with COVID. You read the news on COVID, and you start imagining, thinking, well, what if it happens to me? Then you start imagining it happening to you or to your loved ones. And before you know it, then you go down the rabbit hole, and you have these big, bright, scary, nasty images that are just scaring the crap out of yourself 24/7. So it's actually a systematic thing. So we can actually break it down like, you know, we can do it right here, where if you're making yourself anxious, the interesting thing is, for anyone listening to this, it's actually systematic, where you sitting here could predict the exact times and places in the future where you're going to feel bad, where you're going to be stressed, where you're going to be depressed, or where you're going to be anxious, which means your brain kind of already has it all mapped out, which means you can change it. So that's kind of what you know, I do for a living.
Right. Tessa, you know, Chris was referring to high performance, successful athletes. And I can't imagine a single sporting event where there would be more intense pressure for a short period of time than figure skating, right? Like you, Tessa, only have, like, your season comes down to essentially, when you're at the very top, like 2 performances, right? At the World Championships or at the Olympics. Before the night before you go on, when you're backstage loosening up, are you thinking good thoughts consciously? Are you afraid of the bad things that could happen? What's going on in your brain?
It's a combination of all of that, Michael. And you're right, that stress and pressure, I mean, it's hard to wish that on anyone because it is intense. And I think, to be fair, if there was an eject button right before the Olympics, so many athletes would choose that. But in a sick way, that's also what we crave. And a big part of our preparation was allowing ourselves to feel all of it, and knowing that the doubt, the fear of failure, the fear of disappointment was part of it. And we had practiced and prepared for that and expected it. I so vividly remember skating by the judges before our short dance thinking, I'm going to fall, I'm going to disappoint Scott, this is not going to go well. I just had a feeling it wasn't going to go well. And when we're panicked, our brain asks questions. And so often we just have to quiet the noise. So I had a mantra that I said, I'm unstoppable, is what I would just keep saying over and over to myself. And it was affirming. And I just tried to, say that to give myself some strength and confidence.
I think it's fascinating what you said, that you were skating by the judges. Now, is this before you actually started your program that you were referring to?
Yes, right.
Okay.
Before they announced our names.
Okay, so that's amazing, because I have made reference to it in public speaking. People are afraid to public speak almost all across the board. And if you said to somebody, there's a crowd of 20,000 people out there, and all you have to do is walk up to the microphone and say, my name is Tessa Virtue, and then walk back, people would be panicked. Oh my God, I'm going to fall. Well, when was the last time, for instance, in your case, that you just skating around before a performance that you fell? I imagine probably never happens.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we do catastrophize, as you said, and we I think it's that your brain wants to protect itself from any impending pain it might feel, and any ridicule too. We want to sort of hole up and hide from the vulnerability that comes with putting yourself out there.
Okay, well, let's do this. I have found that one of the things that many of us are panicking about is physical appearance throughout this pandemic, right? I mean, you can't get your hair cut. And so we turned to this wonderful woman, Cindy DUPLANTIS, who is a celebrity hairstylist. And I said to her, okay, well, help us not ruin the way we look. This is edition number 4, where it is all about the cover up. Roll it, Phil. Continuing with Cindy DUPLANTIS, celebrity hairstylist, stylist in general, giving us tips on what to do about, the hair that you hate. You look in the mirror and you go, oh my God, like, when is this thing over? And then you're almost at your breaking point because you're going, hey, I'm going to break the isolation and I'm going down and get my hair cut. So Cindy, there's another route to take, which is just cover it up, right?
Absolutely. I think everybody's sporting bad roots right now, me included. I didn't go and buy those box dyes. The best things to wait.
Okay, so Phil, if you could get a one shot of me, I want you to tell me some types of hats. Just give us the names that I could try and we'll put them on my head. So just go quickly through types of hats that you think might work for me.
Fedora?
Okay.
What's the golfing one looking like?
Oh, the visor.
Like a visor, but like the full one, baseball cap, you could totally rock. All depends on where you're going because they go for different styles.
Right. How about a scarf? Men with a scarf, although I might call it something else like a do-rag. What do you think of that?
Yeah, you could totally rock a do-rag.
Okay, and how about just a headband?
Yeah, a bandana is not bad at all.
Okay, how about a bonnet? No. So there you go. If all else fails, just cover it up. Looks to me like, Tessa, let's you and I evaluate. Looks to me like Chris has spent a lot of time on his hair. What do you think?
Chris, it's looking great. You have that figured out.
Yeah, I just went from the ski behind the boat and the wind shaped it into form. So, yeah. I got out of the bush and threw on a shirt and the wind had it all in place. So I know. I'm sorry, Michael. I didn't mean to rub it in, too. So I hope you find a good hat to have a good look.
I'm not a hat guy. Even in the winter, I will not put on a winter hat when I take my dog out for a walk. And as a result, I'm kind of known in the neighborhood as being maybe the crazy guy who doesn't dress for winter. But here's a question for you, Tessa, that we received from Facebook, I think. How do you keep inspired to reach for new goals? The day-to-day seems to keep me busy, but I'm stressing to find new creative outlets and reaching for my yearly goals.
I think, I struggled with that too, especially following the Pyeongchang Olympics, just finding a new goal to reach for that felt as meaningful or significant. And so I feel like I have categories in my mind, these sort of long-term goals, and whether that's school or job or life-related, something that just as an umbrella, blanket issue I can work towards. But then also these monthly, weekly, daily goals of things that ignite some passion, something that is helping others, something that is maybe small and on the scale of things, but makes me feel good or like I said, productive. So I think timing wise, I try and think of short-term and long-term goals as well. And then I'm accountable to someone too. I write them down. I work with a coach and, I try and develop new strategies each day to strive for goals.
You say you work with a coach. What kind of coach?
A mental performance coach. Even still, I took a bit of time off after the Olympics from anything that made me feel like a high-performing athlete, and then realized recently that a huge part of my success had to do with my team, and I needed to feel accountable. I needed to make sure that I was on the right course. And we have coaches for almost everything in our lives, right? Any kind of skill we're trying to learn, we have a coach or a tutor. And so why not also for life, even on the emotional side of things?
Right. Is it true that you and Scott went to a marriage counselor to figure out ways, I guess, to exist, under this microscope for as long as you guys did?
Yes, we did. And I mean, we put such priority on that partnership because that was everything to us. Every bit of our training and competitive success came from the strength of that partnership, and we needed to rely on one another.
Here's one for you. Casey's writing it out for me. This is for you, Chris. Chris, I saw you on the Big Brother website. Can you help me with my memory? Now, when you were on Big Brother, right, you gave everyone some tips on remembering?
Yeah, well, one of the Big Brother competitions is you had to remember what happened each and every day. So if there was competitions, if people were voted out, even random stuff in the house, you had to remember it all. And of course, people are stressing to the brim to try to remember everything, where I was just doing a little spiel, just talking into the camera. You know, everyone was talking to the camera. So I figured, hey, I'll talk into the camera. So I did a little memory spiel, where the biggest problem people have with memory is they try to auditorily rehearse and repeat things in their mind over and over again. But what happens is that's a really inefficient way, because we can only kind of remember like 7 chunks of information at one time. So you have to keep repeating the words over and over again. Then you go, oh shit, if you're talking to yourself, what did I say again? And you got to repeat it over and over. It's really painful, where it's a lot easier if you just make big, bright, juicy mental images of information, and you make things outrageous, you make them funny, you make them sexy. And I even did a little memory technique called memory palaces, where to remember information, let's say you want to remember a list of items, or let's say you have 20 different steps, a sequence for like a figure skating kind of, routine, is you could put each part. Let's say you have your house, and first, you got to see your house and visualize your house. So you put like the first move at the base of the house, or for me, I put the first competition. So I saw the competitors, I made them outrageous, I made them sexy, I made them doing things you'd never tell a priest or do someone, hyper religious. And then you just cruise through your little memory palace that you can see in your mind. And it's a really powerful technique. So you're using the visual system as opposed to the auditory system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And I've always wondered, Tessa, to tie what Chris was talking into what you were talking in, the intricacies of what you do. I mean, I don't know if you've ever quantified in a long program or how many different moves that you make. I mean, I don't know what even qualifies as a move, but there's so many of them. And I know you do it over and over again, but is there ever the fear of going, God, what happens if I just momentarily am not sure?
Not so much. I think Scott used to feel that a little bit. So early on, I would learn my steps and his steps. But it's so much, comes down to muscle memory and that repetition. And it's really interesting now, because I can remember a dance I did in grade 9 at a competition in North Bay with my high school friends, but I can't remember our Olympic short dance
Really?
that we competed in 2018. I wouldn't even know the first 10 seconds.
And that's from what year are you talking about now?
2018. So that was like the most recent competitive thing that would be in my body. And I mean, I would have no clue.
How about the free skate?
The free dance we did more often, but it would take some time for us to get back into it. I was always so struck by that, and Chris, maybe you can weigh in like why that was in my body for such a long time, so intimately, and then how it was just like I was so dissociated from it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is with memory, it's like long-term memory we store really, really good, like for long, long periods of time away. But sometimes memory, it's all about re-accessing and retrieving. So sometimes certain memories, for whatever reason, they're hard to consciously retrieve. So a little trick that you can kind of do is try to get yourself back into the exact state you were in when you were performing the routine. So almost in your mind, like if you were to just sit and just think about, go back to that memory in your mind and just remember that first thing you did before you started the routine, and just make that image really big and bright, and then step back inside it where you actually like you're going back to that moment in your mind where you're looking through your own eyes, hearing what you heard, feeling what you felt. You might actually surprise the heck out of yourself with just how much you can remember. And that's why I kind of got into the hypnosis side and trance side, because our limitations are only in our conscious mind. And when you begin to go into altered states, is you can get back those memories and those learned patterns where, I mean, you obviously mastered them. So I think it would just be a matter of getting back into that state you were in when you performed, and you might surprise the heck out of yourself with how much you can remember. And just so you know, I'm really great with memory, but Tessa, I'm a fantastic skater, not necessarily a figure skater, but I'm strong. And while Sean can only hold you for short periods of time, I'm sure I could hold you for a very long period of time. Sorry, Mike. I
Yeah.
had that again, Michael.
Yeah, that silence was not good for you, Chris. Not good for you at all.
Right.
You know what was funny though is that before, when you and I were talking earlier today, Chris, we were talking about visualizing success, and it was like I put myself back in this position that I was in years ago when I was first married. I wasn't even working at TSN, and Karen and I drove to. I think it was like Cornwall, and I gave a speech, and I had prepared. The idea of the speech was I was talking about the power of positive thinking, which is a bit of a cliched remark, but really powerful. And I started to talk to you, and it all came like flooding back to me, which was that the subconscious brain cannot distinguish between real or imagined experiences and all of the rest of it. I mean, I'm not going to bore you with it, but it all just came back, and I thought, wow, the brain can be an amazing thing, but the brain can also let us down if we don't put it in the right position. So, God, I wish we had more time, but I got to call it sometime. So, Chris, thanks for doing this, man. Look forward to exploring more about the memory and the mind and all of the really incredible things that you do, and I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much. It's been an honor and a treat to be on here with yourself and Tessa. So great to see you guys, and thanks so much.
And Tess, thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I'm so appreciative of the work that you continue to do. I mean, you're inspiring and affecting so many, and I hope that's not lost on you.
Yeah, well, one of the things about I'm way better at giving a compliment than taking a compliment, like way better. Like sometimes people go to
I will tell you that.
Sorry?
You're the best compliment giver. You're so incredibly generous.
Well, it's maybe you're one of the rare ones that actually hear it for real. Like you don't know whether I do that all the time or very seldom. It would be less often, perhaps. But having said that, for me, sometimes I'm getting introduced in a speech, which I do a lot of speeches, and people will speak effusively about you, right? Because first of all, they want to justify you on their stage. They brought you in to speak. But more often than not, I'll actually go up and interrupt them while they're introducing me because I'm just horrified at being around. Oh my God, it's like, please insult me. That would be way better.
Right.
Well, let's do a part 2 on this, okay?
I'd love that. Anytime.
Okay. Well, and Sean Cullen will have to have a fresh song for you. Let's call it right now. Let's say thanks to Jansen. It's a company that said to us, we like your message. Go out there and get your message out there, and that's what we're doing. And as we say, so long. We'll see you tomorrow. And here's the second half of Sean Cullen tribute to Tessa Virtue.
But please just think about it. Don't make me scream and shout it. Oh, Tessa Virtue, I never would hurt you. You come from London, Ontario, and you might find me scary-o. Don't be afraid. In the future we'll have it made. We'll win every contest. We'll be the best. Oh, how you sparkle. Oh, how you shine. Virtue and Cullen, we could be divine. Oh, Tessa Virtue, I never would hurt you unless I accidentally dropped you. But please don't let that stop you. Okay, Tessa, just think about it. Don't say anything right away. Just think about it.
I'll put some serious thought into that, Sean, and to you,
Have a
Chris.
good day.
Thanks.